So, would you be able to tell us your teacher, and please share with us if there's any words your teacher told you that you still keep in your heart?
My teachers are actually many, because I think you can learn from everybody
Yeah.
when you learn, when you perform. So I was also learning from Petrenko, from Rattle, from Abado, from Ozawa,
right.
from Balbaum, from Kleiber, from conductors, but also from colleagues inside the orchestra, but also from partners when I play with Pinoc, with Lesage, or with the Les Vents Français, for example. They are master of their instrument, and it's amazing to see how Leleu or Vladkovic or Meyer, how they play their instruments. But the flute teachers, back to the beginning. Last one was Aurel Nicolet, and he was preparing me for the adult life, so to say. When I was 20 to 22, had a job in Basel, so I could go and visit him regularly and get his lesson. And he prepared me before, in the summer, 1 week completely, every day, for the Geneva competition that was in September 92, and then for the Berlin Philharmonic audition that was in October 92. This is a long time ago now. It's nearly 27 years. So this is a very vivid memory, and he really dedicated a lot of energy. Why? It was because I just had taken the position in Basel that his wife was actually playing, and also because he was a childhood friend from my very first flute teacher. Back when I was 6 years old, my neighbor in Rome, it was a coincidence. François Binet, he now passed away this March, but was my first flute teacher, the one to introduce me to the flute. I heard the flute because of this family upstairs, where I heard the flute, the violin, the cello, the piano, and I was fascinated by the flute. He was practicing the Mozart Flute Concerto because his son was getting the degree from the conservatory in Rome. And this is how I started. So those two are very important because it gave me the sparkle to start, and then the sparkle to become really professional and get some top recognition and be prepared for this thing. Like Berlin Philharmonic, and like for concerto and sonata life, etc. In between, I had very important teachers in Belgium also. Lesser known, Michel Moinil was a flute player in the music school, local music school, but who took me into different style direction. He loved jazz, he loved the Baroque, he loved any music that was a bit more complicated and where there was a nice keyboard part, because himself, he was a pianist. And then he got accident in the mountain, alpinist. So he lost his legs. And then he was in a wheelchair. He could not play the organ or the keyboard anymore like this. So he switched to the flute. But he liked to accompany the flute students. So he opened my eyes to how the music relates from the flute to the other parts. It's not just like accompany, but it's conversation, dialogue. And this is always, for me, so important. Music is about listening each other, not just about your own performance. This is practice, this is work, but then the music is something else. So this was very important. Then I finished my studies there within 6-7 years, and I was still young, so I got private lessons from the new flute player of the Opera House, Carlos Brunel, who is still in the Brussels Opera House, and is now teacher in the conservatory in Brussels. But in those years, I got private lessons with him, and he prepared me for the competition, national competition and international competition of Belgian radio television. Both I won the prize, and I started making concerts also, and I liked it. First concerto of Mozart with the orchestra, and I thought, this feels good, I like this, I want to become flute player. So that was the decision around 15, 16, 17. Then I went on to Paris Conservatory and entered the class of Michel Debost, who was extremely important for me because he's probably one of the most cultured in terms of general education flute players. He also studied medicine like Jean-Pierre Rampal did up to a certain point. So there's a very complete education, comes from an American, half French family with a lot of cultural background, and gives a very interesting insight. Actually, in those years, he was playing in the Orchestre de Paris also. Barenboim was conductor there, and they had a very good relationship on the intellectual level also, which I think is important. It's not just enemy is the conductor and and the colleagues are your friends and family. We are all trying to do this together. And of course, different jobs, different responsibility. So it was the boss, my main teacher in the Paris Conservatoire, but then he left, took a sabbatical, and then later on left for Oberlin. So I also had lessons with Alain Marion in this year, and then got my graduation the last year. And there were also people like Christian Lardet for chamber music, so I learned a lot of classical repertoire with the harp and the French repertoire. And there was also Pierre Varto for the music, contemporary music. So I had sessions with Brian Ferneyhough, with Stockhausen, with Luciano Berio, with Yoshihisa Taira. All these composers visited. And we had these sessions. Nicolet also visited and then was in the jury. I met Patrick Gallois, I met Sophie Cherrier. These people were, very young and talented in these years. And of course, later on, they are at the top. So the change of generation, but I was lucky in Paris because it's a flute center of the world.
Right, yeah.
To meet all these great players, also James Galway, because he was friends with the boss and with other performers. So I also had the opportunity to meet him then. And all of this mix, blend, cooking together in me, has developed me into what I became. I'm not specifically French flute school, by some aspects, yes, but I'm not specifically German orchestral musician either, even though I've been 25 years or 28 years in Germanic world or orchestras. Because of the Belgian side, there's also some British influence, but also inherited from the Moïse school, which is also the Nicolet and the François Binet school teacher. So it was very interesting musical background to learn from the people who learned the flute between the wars, World War I, World War II, and then after World War II, it's a new world and changing and evolving. But I have big thanks to meeting these people, an incredible perception of certain musical background, actually.
Okay.
Flutistically also.
Yeah.